Welcome Pisces to your 2020 reading. If you are wondering why on earth I have runes already drawn out and the bag is over here, there's a reason for this. I have actually completed your reading, and when I went to check it and to upload it, the first part of the reading, just with the runes for some reason, there must have been some incoming because I record on my phone, and there was so much interference in the sound that I just thought this is really no good. But the reading is amazing. It's so powerful. I didn't want to do it again. And so basically I've edited. I'm going to edit the bit at the beginning out, and I'm going to talk you through the runes that were drawn. So you'll see a shift in the camera when we move to the cards. I don't know why it was only on that part of the video, but I have checked it. So that's why we have runes already here. So first of all, guys, just welcome back to anyone who is already a part of our amazing community that we're building here. You guys are just inspirational. Thank you so much for your likes, shares, comments, and of course for subscribing, because that helps to maintain the channel. But it's the way you're sharing your own experiences with one another. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. I can't do all of them for obvious reasons, but you blow me away. Your authenticity, the way you hold light, you hold positivity at times of challenge. Guys, you are just incredible. Anyone new to the AZ Emotional Health YouTube channel, I'm Jenny Florence. You can read about me in the information box below if you want to know more about me. I put a lot of free stuff into the world. So do check out the information box, because there are links there to things that are there, resources to help you to navigate your journey from a position of empowerment, emotional awareness and empowerment. So do please check those out. And also there's an opportunity to win a free private reading with me. And so, yeah, just do check that out. So guys, let's dive into these incredible runes. The first rune that we drew was Journey. This is a rune of communication. It's a rune that says inner worth, inner self-esteem begins to mount, it builds. The journey sometimes can be an external journey, but usually it's a journeying within. And it's where we seek guidance from within ourselves. We learn to trust our inner voice, our deeper knowing. And this union-reunion aspect of it, the communication, it's almost as though, I think the essence of this rune is to do with our ability to connect heaven and earth and be the conduit through which energy flows. And it's within that space of centeredness, that we receive illumination. Alongside the rune of protection, this is very interesting, because the rune of protection speaks of accelerated periods of life changes, new opportunities. Interestingly enough, sometimes they are challenging, but they are new opportunities. It also says, it asks you to guard against, I won't say receiving the energy of others, but this will apply a lot, I think, to you guys. Pisces, you are so sensitive, you're so emotional, it's wonderful, you're very empathic. It means, though, that sometimes you can pick up on the emotions of others and carry stuff that doesn't actually belong to you. So a good way of describing this is, let's say I was in a room with somebody and I had a blazing row with them, and so an adult walked into the room. When they came into the room and they experienced the atmosphere, the tension between us, they would think, wow, I can cut the atmosphere with a knife. What's gone on between Jenny and whoever they are? Excuse me. But if a child came into the room, that child would pick up on the tension, they would feel it, but they're absorbent like a sponge. Because they haven't yet developed their own sense of individuality, they would feel the tension and they would think, what have I done wrong? They would feel the tension and assume that because they were feeling it, it belonged to them. And there's a flavour of that with this rune. It speaks of, the rune of protection speaks of boundaries. It speaks of the way that we can, when we begin to firm up our own sense of identity, which often happens during periods of accelerated life changes, we sort of develop an aversion almost to the resonance of others if their energy doesn't resonate with us, in very simple terms. So, you know, things or people that we might previously have kind of hung out with and been able to tolerate, even though we're different, if their resonance isn't actually in alignment with our truest values, we will develop an aversion to that. We'll find it harder to tolerate the energy of others. It doesn't mean that we are intolerant in a judgmental way. It just means that we start to use our empathy as part of our ability to be discerning. We recognise that it doesn't do us any good to absorb the energy of people, maybe people who are a little bit toxic. So it's kind of about sharpening our awareness of that in a good way. The rune of fertility speaks of new beginnings. It speaks of a completion of beginnings as well. We have to sort of like fertilise the ground for our own deliverance. So again, a phase of accelerated growth where it's kind of, again, boundaries come into this again. It's where we are able to recognise aspects of the work that we can do. And we step into this space of, I guess, personal responsibility. I always think responsibility as a word, it's kind of, we can define it as our ability to be responsive to ourselves. Hence the fertility, fertilising the ground for our own deliverance. But there is a completion needed. It may be that you have to let some things go. I mean, this is a big 2020 reading. It's the energy of the year. And so it may be that in developing and firming up your own sense of identity, you find that that you do have to let certain things go. It could be certain attitudes, it could be certain aspects of yourself that no longer work for you. We then have the rune of flow. This is about the ebb and flow of new aspects of ourselves coming into being. It's a wonderful, wonderful energy. It really gathers momentum. It really it's where the energy starts to build, and at a certain point, it's just happening. It flows. It's the awakening of intuition. It's emotional awakening. It's knowing, it's that deep, deep emotional resilience that comes from heightened levels of awareness. You guys have had Pisces driving through your signs, so you've had a lot of illumination. Sometimes that's marvellous. It can feel like you are receiving absolute downloads from the divine. At other times it can just feel like you're out at sea. It's the duality of it. But everything has been happening and will be happening in 2020 to bring you into a space of wholeness. We then have this rune of wholeness. Life force, energy is available to you it's like the pathway that you must follow. That's what this rune speaks of. It's being you. I don't think you can continue to align with the needs of others at the expense of yourself. That's probably the basis of what I'm needing to say. We then have the rune of the self. I feel you guys come home to yourselves in some way. This is a rune that speaks of major growth and rectification. It speaks of living an ordinary life in an extraordinary way, being able to engage with life through being the very best version of you. I genuinely think 2020 is offering you an opportunity to align with yourself, literally at a level of soul, to discover your true calling if you haven't already discovered it. And if you have discovered it, the energy is with you to follow it. You can, of course, align and connect with the energy of others, but I think you do so in a way that is more boundaried. Your own personal desires and dreams are no longer going to be put down or put to one side in the face of the desires and needs of someone else. It's such a Piscean thing, isn't it, to align, to merge with others, to connect with others emotionally. But this is a year where you have the opportunity to know yourself emotionally in your own right, and you can recognize the needs of others, but you don't relinquish your own aspirations, desires, pathway, needs on the basis of kind of almost being second best. You can walk alongside people, you can sail alongside people, but your boat is your own. So guys, that's the energy, the messages of the runes. And you'll possibly now see a shift in camera because I'm now going to connect this in with the reading that, as I said at the beginning, I've already done. So hopefully this has come out now without any interruptions in the sound quality. And I mean, to be fair, if it has, I'll probably do it again. But I am pretty certain I've switched anything off that could connect in with the phone and cause a problem. So guys, I'm going to continue with the cards, and so much love to you. So Pisces, we're going to draw now from one of my oldest packs of tarot cards. Ooh. Well, that's pretty awesome. Two of Pentacles, new beginnings, new opportunities, particularly I would say in relation to money, careers. Let's move our runes up here just so that we've got plenty of room. And we are going to be drawing an awful lot of cards because this is a big reading. And rightly so. I mean, 2020 is just looking to be the most extraordinarily powerful year. Astrologically, I don't think I've seen quite such dynamics since I've been interested in astrology. So very powerful times for us all. And the energy is looking to be so transformative. I guess for me it's like learning how to use that energy, understanding the incoming energy so that we can work with it. But well guys, Two of Pentacles, new opportunities, new beginnings. New ventures, I'm kind of hearing. Okay, Five of Cups. Now this is an interesting energy, given that this is a 2020 reading. So it's the flavour for the year. It's the kind of incoming energy. I'm going to say stuff comes to light. Sometimes this card speaks of an aspect of regret. Or sometimes, but it's interesting, it's not a negative regret. It's more that sometimes we push for something and then we see it for what it really is. And even if it's a little bit challenging, it becomes a great awakener. It actually puts us in the driving seat. When you see something clearly, you can make empowered decisions. So even though we may sort of almost like wish we'd not pushed for something, in doing so, something comes to light, basically. And that coming to light brings opportunities. So we have two more cards that have shown up here. We have the Lovers, which is all about making decisions in relationships. We also have the Page of Cups. This is an interesting dynamic, actually. Going back to the energy that was coming through from the runes, in terms of, you know, when I was speaking about the way that we can sort of merge with other people, it's like, you know, we connect up, we don't know what belongs to us, we don't know what belongs to them. Now that level of sensitivity, I think it's actually present in most of us in many ways. But you know, Pisces, it's very present in you guys. You have that sensitivity, that emotional sensitivity. And I think sometimes it means that you experience stuff as your own when it isn't necessarily yours to carry. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me that's the flavour that's coming through here. So as a 2020 reading, I feel as though part of the transformation that's taking place is to do with you becoming aware of some aspect of this within yourselves and learning. Firstly, you learn self-care. You learn to recognise what belongs to you and what doesn't. It means you start to make empowered decisions within relationships. For some of you, this will be intimate relationships. For others, it will just be relationships across the board. But it also means that I think you become aware of the toxicity in others and you become more able to recognise it in others. Coming back to this protection and the way that we develop almost like an aversion to things that don't resonate with us. So that's the kind of flavour. I need to say this is a very empowered position to be in. I'm not saying it's necessarily always easy, but understanding how to experience ourselves and to know what is ours and what isn't ours is one of the most empowering positions to be able to walk through life with. That's certainly been my experience. I think you develop this increasing awareness and you start to make very conscious choices in relation to people particularly, and with respect to understanding like the energetic resonance of others. This creates an entirely new beginning for you. I think it creates a very empowered position, actually. You're possibly aware of this already. Yes, absolutely. And this is the Tower, internal changes. I mean, you don't get a bigger card than that in terms of internal change. That the Death card is always the wonderful transformation in our external world. The Tower is that internal change that we so need in order to walk that pathway of the spiritual warrior, that pathway of self-awareness and self-responsibility. I always think self-responsibility, ultimately, I think we can break that down into its truest meaning, which is our ability to be responsive to ourselves. So very powerful opportunities, I think, in the energy here. Particularly around understanding yourself in response to others. So I'm now actually going to use a second tarot pack. It's one that I use that particularly sort of highlights the dynamics of the people and the energy of people around us. Often part of our learning curve with people around us. We have 4 of water, followed by the Maiden. Excuse me, I've had a card leap out onto the floor. I'm going to have to pick it up. We have the card of the Self. Magical that sits under the Lovers, that wonderful decision-making card. Ten of water. And the energy of the Crone. Wow, guys, this is just a stunning line of cards. So let's talk through them. So let's start with the 4 of water. This is an increase in confidence, self-awareness, self-acceptance, also self-forgiveness. You know, a need to recognise that we all make mistakes, and mistakes are just a space of learning. So removing any form of, I want to say, energetic residue that might cling to you, that would cause you to feel sort of a little bit emotionally stagnant. Self-acceptance, self-awareness is a pathway to freedom. I do feel there's phenomenal self-awareness promised in your journey this year. The Maiden, wonderful energy, independence, increased independence. Follow your own choices, follow your own dreams, discover your passions, seek your own answers. It's all about the energy of individuality, building self-worth, building self-esteem. So this feels as though you are really coming to know yourselves, or I want to almost say coming home to yourselves. We start with the rune of journey. We end with the rune of the self. It literally does feel like there is this process of centering, coming home to yourself in some way. And of course, we have this incredible card here of the self. Guys, I want to say that I think this is a year where you somehow step into a space where you are no longer buffeted around by others. It's like you walk your own pathway. Again, the self, identity, you know, self-realization, self-manifestation. You know yourself, you come home to yourself. It is interesting because this card also speaks of the way that our identity is always flowing into being. It's not static. And part of our ability to flow into our ever-evolving personal identity, our unique individual selves, is to be able to also hold our boundaries so that we know, who we are in response to others. This is all about decision making. I don't think if any of you have been hanging out with some more toxic people, or you've just had some sort of toxicity in your lives, I think you might get to just sort of like develop an aversion to it and say no. Boundaries are coming into this reading, but there's something of you really stepping into a space of wholeness where you know yourself. This is wonderful. It feels like you're also maybe completing some kind of phase in your own personal development. We then have the Ten of Water. This is about boundaries, again come into this card. Universal love. The recognition that we are both at one with everything, and yet to really understand the nature of conscious free will, of our choices, especially choices centered in love. We have to be boundaried. We have to understand something of ourselves. We need to understand, for example, that kindness, compassion actually involves saying no sometimes. It's not always about saying yes. No is a boundary. And I often liken it to, if you take some children to the cinema and they want to eat loads and loads of sweets and stuff, you don't say, yes, of course, help yourself, have as much as you like. You place boundaries and limits around what we allow them to have. And that is because it's not because we're being horrible to them, we're being kind. We care about their well-being. So kindness, compassion, this card is speaking about the ability to be at one with life through kindness and compassion, but with boundaries. And then the energy of the crone, feminine power, a life of your own desire. Again, authenticity, individuality, new purpose, freedom. I need to say that it is liberating. Going back to the energy of the Five of Cups, when we really can see people for who they are, even if it involves some disappointment, it is liberating because we get to make empowered choices. I think you guys become a consolidated, you develop some sense of a consolidated sense of your own self. You do come home to yourselves in some way next year. And it's a magical energy around, because actually it gives you a whole new ability to align with your own purpose, to discover your own desires, rather than being maneuvered or kind of aligning with the desires and the needs of others. You start to align and connect with your own. Very powerful time for you. So I'm now going to draw from the Art of Manifestation cards. ground yourself. Loving that energy. When we are experiencing what I would call accelerated periods of growth, we need to ground ourselves. We need to make sure that we stay centered, because we really can feel a bit all over the place. And of course, you guys have had Neptune traveling through your sign, great amounts of illumination, but my goodness me, we can feel a bit out at sea at times as well. This card is a request to you to literally ground yourself. Go outdoors, take off your shoes and find somewhere where it is safe to stand barefoot. Imagine roots growing out of your feet, travelling down into the soil beneath you, anchoring you with the nurturing energy of the earth. Absolutely get grounded, guys. This is how you are going to remain constant within yourself. It's like a tree, you know, the trunk of the tree. The tree itself will change shape, it will change, and it will flow in response to the seasons, to the wind, to the weather, to the rain, to the sun, but it also remains constant. Its root, its taproot, goes down deep into the earth, and even though outwardly its appearance will change and it will bend and move according to the circumstances around it, it still remains centered and true within itself. That is the energy that comes to you guys next year. I'm really loving the input from the trees coming in here. We have the card of new beginnings. It's interesting, we've had several cards that have come out. New beginnings, let go gracefully, and forgiveness of ourselves. This is very interesting because we had that energy coming in of, you know, mistakes are just something we learn from. We should not be looking back with regret and feeling bad. We should be looking back and thinking, wow, I learned so much from that, you know. New beginnings. This card indicates that you are about to begin a new chapter of your life. Shed, release and cleanse. Let go of any obstacles, inner or outer, that prevent you from engaging fully in moving forwards. The time is right for a fresh start and a new beginning. The universe supports you in your growth. Let go gracefully. Something in your life is calling for you to let it go. Let go gracefully. Whatever has taken place in the past, it is time to move forwards, and letting go will make way for the new. Whether this is a person, a situation, an outdated thought or behaviour pattern, this card comes to assure you that new horizons are waiting for you. Just phenomenal transition. Forgiveness of ourselves. When something goes wrong, even if the circumstances were out of our control or we did the very best that we could possibly do, we can still carry guilt after the event. The gift of guilt is to help us to learn and to develop a conscience, not to carry as a ball and chain for the rest of our lives. Listen to the learning and forgive yourself for not being perfect. Release any guilt today. Really important energy. I think often the more sensitive that we are, and you know, going back to the way that you may embrace things that don't belong to you. If you're around somebody who is kind of emotionally a bit unbounded, you can take that on and end up feeling guilty for stuff that doesn't even belong to you. And you know, even if we do make a mistake ourselves, guilt is an incredible emotion. I know we see it as a negative, but you know, it's only negative if it's misused. Guilt genuinely is the emotion that gives us a conscience. It allows us to be aware of and it kind of infused in a space where we do not wish to hurt someone else. If we have no guilt, we don't care. So it's a very, very vital emotion. Not good if it's manoeuvred, manipulated, used as a weapon. True of any emotions, really. But again, understanding where we begin and where we end is the key to emotional empowerment. Guys, I'm going to, in the big Christmas giveaway, be giving away several of my books. Each week I'll be giving away some in the run-up to Christmas. So watch this space, because I will be giving away Mindfulness Meets Emotional Awareness, and not the Kindle ones, it'll be the proper books. That teaches all about our most difficult emotions and how to use them as a source of empowerment. So yeah, watch this space. Now, lovely energy, the bigger picture. Sometimes during times of accelerated growth, we can feel confused and overwhelmed, unable to see the woods for the trees. This card asks you to stand back and to see the bigger picture. Everything is happening as it should, and you will soon regain clarity. So guys, the residue of, well, Neptune passing through your sign, it's a biggie, isn't it? Illumination, but we can really feel a bit out at sea. But wow, what opportunity as we come through 2020 for you to really get centered in your own desires, your own unique pathway, your entitlement to be yourself, not to have to give yourself away at the expense of someone else's needs. That feels as though that's the flow of this year. You flow into some aspect of a new being, of wholeness, of a centered and grounded self. And I just want to say, what a position of empowerment, bringing new opportunities, especially new opportunities in manifestation. If we absorb the energy of others, it blocks us from manifesting what we desire, because our energy is kind of split in some way. I'm now going to draw a couple of astrology cards, guys. Loving it. Mercury retrograde, reinvention. The wonderful thing about the Mercury retrograde energy, aside from the sort of the seeming chaos that it can sometimes seem to bring, the disruptions, the diversions, Mercury in retrograde offers us an opportunity to review. Anything from the past that isn't serving us gets brought to light. Mercury retrograde asks us actually to stop, to slow down, to become an observer of our own experience, so that we can in turn allow ourselves to release anything that no longer serves us, to let go and make space within for new beginnings. Lovely, lovely energy. We also have the earth element stability. I am going to say that I think part of this journey, the inner change, I think you guys actually literally become anchored within yourselves. You know, there's been a lot of out at sea stuff, and you know, the Neptune in Pisces, you know, sometimes it brings in waves of stuff, and you know, it can be quite gentle waves, and sometimes they can feel like a tsunami, you know, so we can literally be a bit out at sea, but it's almost like you've moved through that. And certainly the 2020 energy is that you get yourselves anchored. And I think it is because you become grounded in your own identity, grounded in your own pathway, new opportunities. The feminine power, we have feminine power in all of us, male and female. It's not a gender thing, but it's about being able to be authentically ourselves and authentically emotionally ourselves. And it's through that experience of our emotions, without them being overwhelming, that we find that source of empowerment. We can be our true authentic selves. And it's only when we sit in that space of true authenticity that we can really listen to our deepest desires and take them seriously, and trust and invest in ourselves and in the future that we desire for ourselves. Pretty powerful stuff, guys. Really, really big source of empowerment in terms of, yeah, literally coming home to yourselves, getting grounded in yourselves. You become your own centre, your own rock. I'm now actually going to just draw a couple of angel cards. We're being asked to draw from the Archangel messages. Lovely. Creative writing. Archangel Gabriel, make time to write down your thoughts in a journal or pen an article or a book. Absolutely. One of the best ways actually of grounding ourselves is to journal. And also journaling, not only does it put stuff, it sort of removes stuff from inside and puts it out onto the paper, but it enables us to stand back and see the bigger picture as well. We also have teaching and learning. Keep an open mind. This is Archangel Zadkiel. Keep an open mind and learn new ideas, then teach these ideas to others. This is a major period of accelerated growth and learning for you guys. Literally, it's evolution. Evolution in motion. You have a lot to offer others in contribution because you have received so much illumination. And although that has, as I said, created, I think at times, a bit of a wobble, there is so much new opportunity here being granted to you this year. So really consider your opportunities as, consider your life experiences as an opportunity to share and to support, encourage, to become an illumination for others. However you do that, I find it fascinating that you've drawn creative writing and teaching and learning. It may be really that some of you are called to actually write about your experiences, to teach from your experiences, teaching from that place of authenticity, because you know what it's like. You know what it's like to struggle in certain ways, and you've come through and out the other side. I think your learning could genuinely help others. So guys, in just a moment we're going to wrap up this reading, but we're just going to draw some Moonology cards to complete. A win-win outcome is forecast. Such a lovely confirmation. And a question. What do you need to release? So really, guys, that's the energy of 2020 for you. So Pisces, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Pisces, Pisces rising, or anyone cross-watching. This is the overall energy, the theme of the year. It's a massive space of evolution into, I'm going to say, personal freedom, authenticity, individuality, coming home to yourselves, anchoring yourselves, putting that taproot down into the earth energetically, so that literally wherever you are, you have that inner strength. This has been a wonderful reading to do for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I've said I'm putting these in a playlist, so you'll be able to find them easily later on in the year if you wish to. Guys, it will seem a bit irrelevant what I'm about to say. I was just about to say watch out for the big December readings, but if you're watching this in sort of March next year, that will seem a little irrelevant, so my apologies for that. But guys, yeah, keep a lookout for the big monthlies that I'll be doing and the weekly readings for guidance and direction. They really help to enhance our unique individual abilities to be intuitive, really, to listen to our intuition. So much love to you. So much love.